Hello, friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. All right, I've been back for a couple days, and I gotta admit, the best way to meet neighbors in a new apartment is to have a fire on the property that affects a whole bunch of people all at once. I have met more neighbors in the past couple days than I have in the previous 6 months because it just happens when you're out and about, and one whole building has to be evacuated because there's no power, and the neighbors are moving into other buildings and other units. You just meet people and you end up talking to them and getting to know who they are. And I'm kind of getting to say, at least from my perspective, this whole fire thing was actually a positive thing. Like I said, I've met more people now than I have in the previous 6 months. Looks like what's going on right now is whatever's going on with the fire, it took out the electrical for one of the buildings. And so what they're doing right now is relocating the people of those buildings into other available units in the complex. For the first couple of days, I guess they were putting out up in hotels and stuff like that because they couldn't even figure out what to do with them. But I guess they rushed through a couple of apartments that were vacant they were doing repairs on and got those finished really quickly. And now all the people in that building are moving into other units. And so, like I said, I've gotten a chance to meet them and some kind of nice people around here, I'll admit that. Now, it's also interesting, they had construction crews out today tearing down that shed. So apparently they've just considered the thing a total loss. So I got out this morning and they had a bunch of, dumping bin trucks out there, and they were making a bunch of noise, tearing everything down. And in 24 hours, that whole thing is gone. They've cleaned up the whole mess right now, and it's all gone. So I'm continuing to hear from people that the fire probably started as a result of that gas main and probably ignited all that junk that was out there and then eventually set that car and sent that building on fire. Now, I'm hearing, I guess, that they have a boiler that does certain parts of running this place, and apparently the boiler was in there too. And so while it was just electricity in some of the buildings, I guess there was no heat and no hot water in other parts of the building that had the heat that had the boiler for doing that. So that was also kind of a big part of it. I just have electric central heat and electric central air in this place. So, I guess that's just different standards in different parts of the complex. But like I said, that whole place is torn down. I hope they're going to start enforcing the rule of no more dumping in that area now, because that's always been kind of an eyesore in this place, is because anyone who has extra furniture that they don't want anymore, they just dump it out there. And unfortunately, the apartment doesn't really keep up with getting rid of that on a regular basis. A lot of that stuff had been there for a month or two, and I think it's only every few months when it got so bad back there that there was no more room to dump junk that they began moving the stuff out of there. And I think that was probably a huge part of the fire. Who knows how much of an issue it would have been if it had just been, if there hadn't been anything there immediately combustible to burn. Because, if it wasn't for all the furniture and mattresses and junk like that out there that probably started when the fire started, the building itself probably wouldn't have been a problem because the building is made out of brick. But once you have something combustible outside of the building, then that just kind of starts, then you get a big enough of fire in there and it sets the roof on fire and breaks through the windows and all that, and it was just all went downhill from there. And like I said, the apartment complex is still going to probably have to deal with that person's car that was totally destroyed and those other cars that were damaged. I did confirm that the white SUV that I showed you early on did belong to that neighbor of mine that I met a long time ago, the guy that painted my car, and he's absolutely furious about that happening. Um, he's saying at this point he doesn't even want the apartment insurance to pay for the car. They just want him to. He just wants him to void the lease so he can get out now. He's kind of in the same boat I am. He's got a lease that goes until the beginning of the summer, and he's just tired of this place and he wants out. I can imagine how it must be worse for him because, like I've said before, this place is supposedly the showcase apartment of the whole complex. And if that's the case, then that means that other apartments in this building are even worse than this one was. So I can't imagine how bad it must be in some of those other units. But like I said, he doesn't even want the insurance company to pay to fix his car. He just wants out. And basically, the damage to his car is it melted that dome on the rear light. It took out the entire electrical system for the back of the car, so none of the tail lights work. It melted the step bumper in the back, and it buckled melted the paint, and the paint began bubbling up as a result of that. So it's going to be extensive repairs to his car, and his car probably has the least damage of all of them. So the second car that I showed you, where the rear dome light had just been melted and turned white, that's got to be much worse than that. And then of course that one car is just a complete and total loss. And from what I'm hearing, that car was like brand new or virtually brand new. So that's going to be a big expense for them. I kind of feel sorry for this new landlord because it isn't even really her fault. She's only been here for a couple weeks. And, this place is all falling apart. You got to wonder if she's having like buyer's remorse right now and wondering, what have I gotten myself into? But anyway, like I said, it's been a reasonably positive thing for me, as much as such a horrible thing for other people can be a positive person for someone else. I've gotten to meet some neighbors, and that's kind of cool. And it's cool to have some new friends around here. So that's a good thing. And it's also a good thing that nobody was hurt at the time. And so, you know what? It's property, and property can be repaired. So I was also talking to my mother today. While I was back in California, I meant to get another copy of her recipe for her lasagna so that I could prepare that for you. And somehow, there are too many other things going on at the time. And I got out of the house before I managed to get a copy of that. So I texted her today and asked her to send me a copy of the recipe. So hopefully I'm going to have that in the next day or so, and we can prepare my mom's lasagna recipe for you, because I really want to show you that, and I really kind of want to get it into a digital format so that I can have access to it easily. I have like 2 copies of it right now, but it's in the storage locker somewhere, and I'm not sure exactly where it is. So it just seems easier just to get another copy of it. And I told my mother a new trick. My mom's not a real tech person, and is sometimes baffled by some of the more advanced features on her phone. So I showed her a trick the other day because she had some issues with the company that's supposed to be doing the long-term health care for them. They're still kind of giving her a little bit of headache in terms of getting approved on that. They don't really have any problem collecting the revenue every month in the form of the bills every month to get paid. But the second it's their turn to pay back, they're doing everything they can to hold up and to delay the process. So my mom got a letter last week and was really kind of freaked out about it. And turns out my brother-in-law has been dealing with a lot of this stuff because as an investment broker, he has just some experience dealing with this kind of thing. So my mom wanted me to figure out how we could send a copy of this letter to my brother-in-law who is in Sacramento. And I just said, well, let's just snap a photo of it on the phone and then we'll text it to him. And so we did that, and I showed her that process. So I think she kind of understands how to do that now. So I'm hoping that she can do the same thing for her lasagna recipe and send it to me that way. That way, once I get it, I can put it up on the screen. I can translate it to text. And then I'll have a digital copy of it, and then we can go forward and make that for you. Because, like I said, I really want to show you that one. That's my benchmark for lasagna. Elvis's lasagna was really, really good. It was very close, but it isn't my mom's lasagna. So I'd really like to show you that, and maybe that's in the works now. Hopefully, I'll be able to do that in the next few days. So anyway, I think that is all that I have for today. Thank you as always for watching. And I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.